The crowd was loud, excited, and full of energy, just like every time the members of BTS appeared in public. Fans had been waiting for hours, some even since early morning, hoping to catch just a brief glimpse of their favorite idols. Cameras were already raised, phones were recording, and the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. But no one expected that in the middle of all that excitement, a tense moment would unfold that would quickly spread across social media. As the members moved through the crowd with security around them, fans leaned forward, waving and calling their names. Among them were Jimin and Jungkook, walking close together as they often do. For longtime fans, their dynamic has always been fascinating. They joke, laugh, tease each other, and sometimes share quiet moments that fans interpret in many different ways. But what happened in that moment wasn't playful. It felt different. Suddenly, as the group moved past a section of the crowd, a fan reached out and grabbed Jimin's short. At first, it happened so quickly that many people didn't even realize what had occurred. In crowded environments like this, accidental contact can happen, but according to several fan recordings circulating online, the motion looked deliberate. Jimin's shirt visibly pulled for a brief second, and his body shifted slightly from the tug. That's when something changed. Jungkook's expression, which had been relaxed just seconds earlier, suddenly hardened. He turned his head sharply toward the direction of the fan, his eyes scanning the crowd. The playful energy that fans often see from him seemed to disappear in an instant. For a brief moment, he looked protective, almost like he had switched into a completely different mode. Many fans later described it as bodyguard Jungkook. The clip quickly spread online, and people started analyzing every frame. Some viewers noticed how Jungkook subtly moved closer to Jimin afterward, almost positioning himself between him and the crowd. Others pointed out how his gaze lingered for a second longer than usual, as if making sure nothing else would happen. Was he angry? Or was he simply reacting instinctively to protect his friend? Moments like this often spark huge conversations in fandom spaces, and when the people involved are global stars like Jimin and Jungkook, the reaction multiplies even faster. One of the reasons the moment resonated so strongly with fans is the long history between these two members. Since the early days of BTS, their bond has been visible in countless behind-the-scenes clips, interviews, and performances. They trained together, grew up together in the spotlight, and experienced the intense pressures of global fame side by side. So when fans see a protective reaction like that, many interpret it as something deeper. But here's an interesting question. Is what people saw really anger, or was it simply a natural response to an unexpected situation? Think about it for a moment. Imagine walking through a crowded space with someone you care about. Suddenly, a stranger reaches out and grabs their clothing. Even if the intention isn't harmful, the instinctive reaction from many people would be to look over immediately, right? That quick shift in attention doesn't necessarily mean aggression. Sometimes it's just awareness. Still, the moment sparked a lot of discussion about fan behavior and personal boundaries. Being a fan is often about love and admiration. People feel deeply connected to artists whose music has helped them through difficult times. For millions around the world, BTS has been exactly that kind of source of comfort and inspiration. But there's also an important balance that needs to exist. Where does admiration end and personal space begin? Public events, airports, and fan gatherings can become incredibly chaotic environments. Fans get excited, emotions run high, and sometimes people forget that idols are still human beings moving through real spaces. That's why security teams are always present. Yet even with professional security, moments like this still happen. Many longtime fans actually responded to the clip not with excitement, but with concern. Instead of focusing only on Jungkook's reaction, they began discussing the importance of respecting boundaries. Some fans wrote comments like, "Please remember, they are people first." Others said, "Support them, but don't touch them." This type of conversation is becoming more common in modern fandom culture. As artists gain larger global audiences, the responsibility of fans grows too. A crowd of a few hundred people is very different from a crowd of thousands. Now, let's look at another interesting part of this moment. Why did Jungkook's reaction feel so powerful to viewers? Part of it comes down to perception. fans have watched Jungkook grow from the youngest member of BTS into a confident global performer. Early in the group's career, he was often seen as quiet, sometimes shy, and focused on improving himself. Over time, though, fans began to see more sides of him: the playful side, the competitive side, the thoughtful side, and sometimes the protective side. Moments like this reveal how naturally people step into protective roles when someone close to them might be uncomfortable. It's something we see in everyday life too. Friends watch out for each other, family members do the same. In that sense, Jungkook's reaction didn't feel like something staged or exaggerated. It felt instinctive. And maybe that's why it resonated so much. Another thing that makes this moment fascinating is how quickly fans began interpreting body language. The internet has become incredibly skilled at analyzing tiny details. A glance, a step forward, even the angle of someone's shoulders can become the subject of long discussion threads. But sometimes it's worth asking another question. Do we sometimes read too much into brief moments? A 2-second clip can be powerful, but it also captures a tiny fragment of reality. None of us were inside Jungkook's mind at that moment. None of us know exactly what he was thinking. Maybe he was annoyed. Maybe he was simply alert. Maybe he was making sure Jimin was okay. Or maybe all of those things happened in the same split second. Human reactions are complicated. Still, one thing became very clear after the video circulated. Fans were reminded once again that fame doesn't erase personal boundaries. Even the most beloved artists deserve space and safety. Interestingly, many people also praised Jungkook for staying composed. Despite the visible change in his expression, he didn't escalate the situation. He didn't confront the fan directly or create a bigger scene. Instead, the group continued moving forward with security guiding them. That calm response may actually say a lot about the experience BTS members have gained over the years. After more than a decade in the spotlight, they've encountered nearly every type of public situation imaginable. From screaming stadium crowds to emotional fan meetings, they've learned how to navigate intense environments while maintaining professionalism. But that doesn't mean the pressure disappears. In fact, one could argue that moments like this reveal just how complex the relationship between artists and fans has become in the modern era. On one hand, fans want closeness. They want to feel connected to the people whose music means so much to them. On the other hand, idols need privacy and physical boundaries in order to stay safe and comfortable. Balancing those two things is not always easy, and sometimes it takes a small incident to remind everyone where that line should be. Interestingly, this moment also sparked a wave of appreciation posts online. Fans shared compilations of Jungkook looking out for other members during crowded situations. Whether it was guiding someone through a tight space or checking behind them in a chaotic crowd, fans began noticing how often he seemed aware of the group's surroundings. Of course, the same could be said for many members of BTS. They've spent years relying on each other in high-pressure environments. When you travel the world together, perform together, and face intense media attention together, a kind of unspoken awareness develops. You learn to watch each other's backs. And maybe that's exactly what people saw in that moment. Not anger, not drama, just instinct. But there's still one more interesting question worth exploring. Why do fans react so emotionally to protective gestures between idols? Part of it is storytelling. Fans naturally build narratives around the relationships they see. Every shared glance, every laugh, every moment of support becomes part of a larger story in their minds. And those stories help people feel closer to the artists they admire. When fans saw Jungkook react that way after someone grabbed Jimin's shirt, many immediately interpreted it through the lens of friendship and loyalty. It felt like a reminder that behind the global fame, the awards, and the sold-out stadiums, these are still people who care about each other. That idea is powerful. It reminds fans that the connection within the group is real. At the same time, though, it's also important to remember that short clips don't define entire relationships. The members themselves often emphasize teamwork, trust, and mutual support in interviews. Those values have been part of BTS since the very beginning. And maybe that's why the group has remained so strong over the years. Moments of tension come and go, but the bond remains. So what can fans take away from this situation? First, excitement is natural. Supporting artists passionately is one of the things that makes music communities so vibrant. But respect must always come first. Cheering, waving, and filming are part of fan culture, but touching or grabbing someone without consent crosses a line. Second, short viral clips don't always tell the full story. It's easy to jump to conclusions when a moment spreads across social media, but real life is more complex than a few seconds of video. And finally, moments like this remind us how much the members of BTS still look out for each other. Whether it's during performances, interviews, or crowded public appearances, that sense of teamwork continues to stand out. As fans continue to watch and discuss moments like these, the most meaningful response might actually be the simplest one. Support the artists, respect their space, and celebrate the music and memories they create. If this moment made you think about how fans and artists interact in